Rashad, what's up, fella?
What's going on, man?
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good.
Glad to hear it, man. Season's over. Congratulations, pal. You made it.
Yeah, finally over.
Welcome in the PNP Army showing up on a Thursday morning. You love to see it.
Coming through.
Love to see it.
Wow, there's Vin Diesel on a yacht. I don't feel so bad about myself right now. That's not good.
Say on a yacht?
Yeah, he
how's that bad?
He has let himself go.
Oh, well, if Vin Diesel's out of shape, I am just bleep out of luck. We can't all be Rashad, man.
That's funny. Breaking: Vince Lombardi out as coach of the Green Bay Packers. So you're going to Germany. I figure you probably spend time there in your other job.
Oh,
to where that you can't really talk about. So so it's familiar territory for you.
No, I haven't been to Germany.
Allegedly.
As an adult, I've never been.
it is Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, and on Thursdays we talk Carolina Panther football, and we do so with one half of America's favorite National Football League themed podcast. He is the host of the Panther Nation podcast. He joins us every Thursday, even when we don't want to talk about the Carolina Panthers, to talk about the Carolina Panthers. Rashad Beard on the radio broadcast. What's up, big fella?
What's going on, guys? We made it through. We made it through.
You did. Like Sunday evening, did you take off the Panther gear and like put it in the back of the dresser drawer for a few minutes and just take a deep breath?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically, yes. It was glad to. I was happy to for the season to be over and for us to move on. It was I think this season goes down as the worst season in Carolina Panthers history, considering all the circumstances around it and the trade up and everything that happened. And so I'm glad it's over and we get to move on and start from scratch. So I'm happy about the possibilities moving forward, though. I think we're heading in the right direction so far.
All right. So obviously we know Fitterer's out. We haven't talked since that news broke. The list of, or at least the first list of GM candidates has come out. On one hand, Rashad, I want to be optimistic. I want to say, all right, Tepper got rid of his lapdog. He got rid of his yes man. Maybe this is a sign that he's finally going to figure out that, dude, you having your fingers on everything is the reason everything's gone bad. I just wish that I could say that that was the truth as opposed to my gut feeling. What were your thoughts when you learned that Fitz got the bricks?
That's funny. But yeah, no, I was happy about that. I think that's one of the I believe, and I said this on my show, that I think that was one of the tougher things that David Tepper had to do. Like I feel like Scott Fitterer was his guy, and I feel like Scott was okay with doing the bidding of David Tepper without any questions asked, right? Without any pushback. And so I think that David Tepper had his guy, and he's been around for a while, and I think he trusted Scott Fitterer. I think he really trusted him. And so I think it was a good move, and a tough move for David Tepper to make. With that said, I do feel good about what's going on right now, because if you look, one thing that's never happened under the David Tepper era is that we've never started from scratch. We've never had and brought in a GM and a head coach at the exact same time. It's always been one after the other, or we keep one or fire one. We keep one or fire the other. And so now at this point, we're starting from scratch, and we're also bringing in the Sportsology, which is the firm that helped the Rams, Eagles, and et cetera, to get their situations right. So it's a little different, little signs of optimism for me. I'm happy about that. And if you look at the list of candidates, it's a pretty expansive search. So I'm happy about it.
One of the biggest takeaways I had was the announcement of utilizing a search firm, right? And I think that there's still some apprehension because that firm can come back and say, all right, here's the list. Here's our 3 top guys. And Tep could still go, nah, screw that. I don't like any of these guys. These aren't my guys. But the fact that he got somebody outside of the organization involved, somebody that does not have a bias, somebody that does not have any reason to tint the search one way or the other, and somebody that can go, you already paid me. I got no reason to kiss your backside. Here's what we think you should do. That combined with the dismissal of Fitterer, I hate to say I feel optimistic, Rashad, because we've been saying that for 2 damn years now, but it's the first time, like you mentioned, with a true clean slate and Tepper making moves to get rid of lapdogs and bring in outside guys that have no reason to kiss his butt. It's the first time that I'm like, okay, maybe people can change. And if people can change, maybe David Tepper can change. Maybe he got the message of a step back.
Oh, yeah. Hey, he definitely got the message, because we had our shirts on at the game, and they hit the Jumbotron several times. And word on the street is that they were told to stop putting that shirt on the Jumbotron. So I think he definitely is getting the message, or if he hasn't gotten it yet. I think, word on the street is that, he has taken some accountability. He recognizes, and again, only time will tell if these things are true, right? And like you said, he brought in the search firm, and he could choose not to listen to them. But we got to give him props for at least bringing them in, because that has not happened his entire tenure here. He's never brought in a search firm to help him. And so those decisions that he's made prior were solely on him and whoever the GM or the head coach were at the time. So now you bring in a third party who has a track record of success. If you look at the teams that employed this search firm, like the 49ers, the Eagles, the Rams, like they've all been relatively successful over the past couple of years. So they have a track record. And if he chooses not to listen to them, that's a whole nother problem. And we'll continue to, be down this rabbit hole of forever being bad. But it's a step in the right direction. And again, I like this list of guys that are on for the GM and head coaches. I think that even you talk about the head coach search, Tepper has said, he's wanted a offensive guy, right? But there are several defensive guys on this list. So it tells you that at least, this search firm it's expansive, right? It's not just listening to what David Tepper wants. It's a matter of finding the right person for the Carolina Panthers. And ultimately, that's what we hope to choose. I want an offensive guy myself. And I tweeted this the other day. I want an offensive guy, but at the end of the day, if the search firm comes in and says, hey, the defensive guy is best for this situation right now, then give me the defensive guy. And let's listen to these guys. They know what they're doing. And so be it. So it's a good list. And I like where we're starting off so far.
Rashad Beer from the Panther Nation podcast joining us here on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. I listen, those lists are wish list, right? That's a Christmas list. You get names like Ben Johnson on there. Ben Johnson's going to have interviews with probably every team that's going to be hiring a head coach, and he is kind of the top of the list as he pretty much gets to call his shot. I've got to hope, Rashad, that the reason that this is going the way that it's going is Tepper's got to realize that on the list of head coaching opportunities right now, if he ain't at the bottom, he's real close to it. And if he wants to, at the bottom or real close to that list, if he wants to get a top-notch candidate in there, he's going to have to give them their way, right? It's either give them their way or you're going to have to end up hiring somebody that nobody's talking about as a candidate and hope you stumble into a Mike McDaniel and not a guy you got to fire in week 6 next year for the 3rd year in a row. Sometimes the only thing that gets people to change is when there are consequences to their action and their decisions. And I got to wonder if this is a consequence to Dave Tepper's issues, ... does it frickin' matter?
Yeah, man, you hit that spot. I couldn't have said it better than that. Because if you look at the list of open jobs, we're sitting at the bottom of that list. I've seen all the rankings. Everybody's put them out, and we're sitting at the bottom of that list. So, as you stated, unless he comes in and gives some assurance that, hey, this is what was done in the past is the past. I've learned my lesson. Because we're at the bottom of the list, not because of the football team and what we've done and what we put on the field. It's because of me. Like, I have to take accountability for that. And so you're absolutely right that he needs to take onus, because you can't buy wins. You can't just – he's the second richest owner in the league. Like, you can't just buy the head coach. There's some things that come along with that, and you have to take accountability for the mistakes you made. And so at the end of the day, I really feel like Tepper's starting to learn that lesson, and your point is spot on. We're probably going to end up either, and it doesn't really matter, but we're going to have to really, really overpay somebody at the end of the day to get them to come to Carolina, or we're going to end up hiring somebody that is maybe a few years prior to when they're ready, right? We're probably going to get a guy like Frank Smith, who's not really talked about in the mainstream yet, but he's kind of talked about, right? But he's not quite ready for prime time. So that's the kind of guy we're going to get, and hopefully it works out. But at the end of the day, it's all David Tepper. It starts and stops with the owner. And until he steps back and realizes that it's him, we're going to be in this situation over and over and over again. Absolutely right. Spot on, though, what you said.
Here's what killed me. I read Peter King put out a column either Friday or Monday. I don't remember. And I like Pete King. He and Florio both, I know, are taking a bunch of crap, but welcome to the land of media in 2024. It's about getting clicks. You got to say stuff that gets clicks. That's how it goes. But he wrote in a column, and I don't know why it stuck with me, but he said, whoever the Panthers hire, if it's a top name candidate, they're going to have to pay potentially a record contract. And he said that coach, however, should not consider it windfall profit. He should consider it hazard pay for having to work with David Tepper. And I sat there and I went, okay, I want to put myself in David Tepper's shoes. Like, obviously we're both billionaires, so I can do that pretty easy. If I'm reading one of the most respected journalists and National Football League reporters, analysts, whatever you want to call them, and he is, taking shots. That's not a little shade. That's a straight up shotgun blast of a take right there. And is completely unafraid of losing the ability to connect and cover my team. At some point, that's got to resonate. At some point, I got to realize, like, okay, I'm not just on blast with my own fans now, but now I got the guys that the NFL goes to get them to put a positive spin on the light, taking me down like a Brock Lesnar suplex. That ain't going to get it, man. And when that's the image around your team, like I've said for years, the only thing that matters to a billionaire more than their money is their ego. Yep. And that dude's taking some bruised egos right now. Man, I hope that's the trigger for change.
Yeah, it has to be. And again, you see things are starting to be run a little different. So like you're starting to see that accountability. And it's not just us. Like we kind of started it off with the whole March on Mint thing. But since then, bro, like he's been taking to Suplex City, like you said, over the national media. Like it's not just us. Everybody sees it. Everybody sees it across the league. And so, again, this is why you see the search firm. And whether I saw somebody in the chat say, "Oh, it's probably a scapegoat thing so that he can take dodge responsibility next time he has to fire a coach," maybe that's the case. But what we can say that it hasn't been done. He's taking accountability for the first two firings. He's taking responsibility for it at the end of the day, because there's nobody else to take responsibility. So he had to. And so at the end of the day, he had to do something different. And this we have to give him some credit. And nobody's been bashing David Tepper more than me, right? And I'm going to give him credit where credit is due. He deserves a little bit of credit for doing things a little different, for bringing in the coach firm, and for starting with a clean slate. But yes, he has been taking a beating over the national media, and rightfully so, right? This is not just some unwarranted thing. The proof is in the pudding, right? It's the worst season in Carolina Panthers history, so it's rightfully so. And I agree with everything Peter King said. Like, we're gonna have to overpay. At the end of the day, there is no salary cap for coaches, so it doesn't matter to us. It just only affects his bottom line. But at the end of the day, just let's get the right guy in here. Let's get this thing turned around. There's nothing we can do about it at this point. Let's just get the train back on the tracks.
Rashad Beard from the Panther Nation podcast here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. You can join our live stream, by the way, at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, searching and subscribing to the Rob Brown Show on YouTube or on Twitch. We'd love to have you. We do this all 4 hours every single day of the week. Let's talk football. Let's talk X's and O's and gridiron here, Rashad. And obviously, I have been reading as we start to see the postmortems for the season come in for different teams over and over and over, how the Carolina Panthers clearly made the wrong decision with CJ Stroud winning the division, going to the playoffs, versus Bryce Young winning 2 games. The thought for me is this. CJ Stroud won the division. CJ Stroud had a better year. That is inarguable. I would say the AFC South really not any better than the NFC South at the end of the season, with Jacksonville collapsing the way that they did. But this is with the war horn I've been blowing for the past week, Rashad. If you think that this year was a year that you can take away an accurate representation of what Bryce Young is, I just think you're wrong. End of sentence.
Yeah, I agree. It's too early. It's too soon. The coaching staff has been shuffled around. No direction from the top down. I mean, it's just it's fair. It's unfair to criticize Bryce Young in this season. Yes, and put it all on him specifically. Like, yes, he takes some accountability. Yes, there are some things he can get better at individually. But at the end of the day, this organization has failed Bryce Young as a whole, right? And until we get the organization fixed and get this man some weapons and fix the offensive line and get some solid play calling, it's tough to criticize Bryce Young and put everything solely on him. Yes, probably if we had CJ Stroud, we may have had a couple more wins, but at the end of the day, it still would have been bad. It wouldn't have been enough for Carolina Panthers fans. Again, Bryce Young does have some things he needs to work on individually. Yes, that is true. But to put the onus completely on him is unfair, unwarranted. And we'll have to see. Like, we need to see, let this thing play out. It's tough for us to say, all right, Panthers fans, be patient. It's been a long 6 years under David Tepper, but we have to, give Bryce Young some time to develop. It hasn't been good, no, but he deserves at least another year to kind of get the train back on the tracks with some help around him. So it's not fair at all.
All right, let's talk about the team as a whole. 11 unrestricted free agents who were technically no longer a part of the team as of Monday. There are a couple of other names that are obviously up in the air. Brian Burns being one, Jeremy Chin being one. You've got issues with Derek Brown. Right now, and I don't think it's recency bias to say that on the year that he's had, Brown is the guy that you need to ensure is priority number one. But Jeremy Chin's a guy that was on fire when he started, kind of disappeared within the scheme this year. Brian Burns, I honestly think, was holding back a little bit this year, because if he was to suffer an injury without an extension in place, that could have been catastrophic to his career. There's a lot that needs to be handled here. A, what priority order are you putting those three specifically in, but any other positions you want to see shored up? And B, Would you rather Carolina find a GM before you get to that role, or is it something you're working on right now, even if you're doing it without one?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I think the GM and head coach specifically have to be in place before we start making these decisions, right? The direction of the team, and this is the problem with the previous regimes, right? We always had a mixed match of direction, right? The GM had a direction or the new head coach had a direction. They never were on the same page. Now's the opportunity for us to get it right, bring the head coach and GM in at the same time, and set the direction. At that point, then you figure out what we're going to do with Brian Burns. You have to start there because as much as I love Derek Brown, he's on his 5th-year option, so he's technically locked up going into next season. He's under contract. Should he get extended? Absolutely, but we have the rights to him ultimately. Brian Burns, you got to figure out what's going on. You got to figure out what you're going to do there. And I know Joe Person wrote the article about, Brian Burns holding back. I understand it, but I don't understand it at the same time. You're essentially playing for your extension at this point. You let yourself down. You kind of so I get it, but I don't get it. I get the whole injury thing, but you had to show up and you didn't, right? And so you got to figure out what you're going to do with Brian Burns. With Evero, I don't know that Brian Burns is much of a priority. It really depends on who the defensive coordinator is going to be and how they're going to use Brian Burns. If they need him, right, he's a weapon, cool, we bring him back in. But I've seen Evero's defense has been really, really good, right? And so I trust Evero. If you look at his time in Denver, he's worked really well and had a really good defense without a premier pass rusher, right? And so I don't know. I don't know where we go. I personally, and people have asked me this on my channel, Jeremy Chin, not really concerned about him. There's a person you didn't talk about that needs to be priority, and that's Frankie Louvu. Frankie Louvu is a really, really good player, and I think he jumps to the top of the priority list. When you talk about linebacker play, we haven't seen a guy like this since a Thomas Davis, since a Luke. I'm not putting him in the Luke Kuechly. I'm not putting him up there, but he's starting to play like that, right? And so you need to prioritize getting him because he's an unrestricted free agent going into free agency. We need to lock him up. He's a priority I'm looking at. Jeremy Chin never really found a role here. At the end of the day, the defense still performed well. So I'm not looking at him to, he's not a somebody I'm looking to lock up right now. But for me, it's a priority to wrap that up. It's got to be Louvu. You figure out what happens to Burns, Derek Brown under contract. Chin, if you lock him up, cool. Not really a priority.
Rashad Beard hosts the Panther Nation podcast. He joins us every Thursday at this time to talk Panther football. Rashad, appreciate you, big fella. We'll do it again next week and see where we're at in the quest for a new HC.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited. Good times. Again, take your small victories, Panthers fans. Take the small wins. Right now, we're heading in the right direction, and that's all we got for right now.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, you only got 2 regular ones, so I guess you got to do what you got to do. Rashad, talk to you next week, big fella.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you guys.
See you, big guy. That is Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast. You can follow them on social media at Panther Nation PC. Make sure you are subscribed to their YouTube channel. And for those of you that joined us from the Panther Nation PC Army, you're welcome to stick around. Go search The Rob Brown Show on YouTube. Click the Watch Live button because we ain't done. We got NFL playoffs to talk, college basketball to talk, and a whole lot more on The Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Told me